In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blank stare into the camera and action. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm SM SithLord coming to you as my bear. I'm wearing a strikingly similar shirt in real life as I am to my VTuber bear here. It's amazing. And this is the build stream right here on the Somnium channels that you're watching right now. Welcome. So I do webworld build streams on this stream lately, and what I'm going to do today is demonstrate a few techniques that might come in handy if you're trying to make something really, really optimized to run on web in Somnium Web as a web world. Now I'm going to demonstrate a couple things. First, I'm going to demonstrate, oh, you know what? Maybe I already have something that I can show from last time that I can use. Let me see here. No. I should do a fresh one. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate making a web world with a single room with a prop in it and a light, and I'll make it as a regular scene with different materials on everything. And then I'll do I'll optimize it by merging everything together and baking the lighting, and we can compare it to that. And I might do one other variation in between then during this about 2-hour session here. So let's get going. First things first, let me make sure. I'm going to be using 3ds Max, especially because I'm going to be baking the light here. You could probably do the same stuff in Blender, if you're a Blender wizard. I am not a Blender wizard. I don't know if I consider myself a 3ds Max wizard, but that's what I'm using today. And I need to set my default units to meters, because that's what PlayCanvas likes. I could do centimeters also, but meters is good. Something metric, not inches. That's not good. Okay, now let's make this room. I'm going to make a box. Oh, wait, no. Before I make a room, I need to make Gordon Pillman, this little capsule that's going to show how big a person is. Now, I'm going to make this world based around human hero proportions. Gordon Freeman is a human, and he's a hero, and he's 1.8 meters tall, 1.88 meters tall. I know that, even though I don't usually measure things in meters. I do imperial because I'm in California. I know how tall Gordon Freeman is because of Gordon Pillman here. And we'll make him orange. All right, now we got our little placeholder for how big a person is. Let's make our room. There's a few ways I could go about making this room. I'm going to go the easy way. So the easy way is, okay, we got a hallway. Oops. We got a hallway going over here. Oops. Yeah, actually, that's good. We got some kind of room going on over here. Like that. And then we have another room over here where the hallway starts. Like that. Okay, it's like reception. And then then I think we're good. Okay, so this is the little structure that we're going to make. Let's go ahead and... No, I said I was going to do this the easy way. It looks like I didn't do it the easy way. I bet you the easy way would be a little different. This is the easy way enough. Is it? No, okay, let's do this an even easier way. I am gonna use what I just made here, but I'm gonna draw a line, and my line is gonna be snapped to vertex. Now I'm gonna just snap it around here to these things. Let's go to editable spline. Let's insert a couple vertices in here, refine there and refine there. So just doing some 3D modeling stuff right now. Getting things set up for the different demonstrations on baking and optimizing. All right, so now that we got this, I grab this one. And go like that. No. Why does that never work for me? Okay. Both of those go over here. There are several ways to do this. I'm doing one. Okay, now we got this going on. That's cool because now I can do some things with this. I can delete these things. I can tell, let me save this, and this is called in scenes, web bake tests. I'll call it web bake tests, this little project here. Okay, this. I want to extrude it to be 0. Okay. At the end. Good. Now, let's go ahead and editable spline this, or editable poly. There. That's why I wanted to do it this way, so I could have do that, what I just did there. Because now the thing's it's coming along. Okay, let me fix my FOV here. All right, it's a little large, I'm seeing. That's okay. It's a Unix system. I know this. By the way, that movie Jurassic Park where the girl sits at the computer and she uses the computer and she has that line where it's a Unix system. I know this. That actually was a Unix system. That ridiculous graphical 3D interface that she was using, that's real. That was, even at the time the movie was made, that was a real Unix operating system kind of shell over everything. Okay, that looks good. Let's throw, oops, that's not right. Let's go ahead and detach this for a moment. Cable detached. Okay, and then I'll merge all my vertices back together. All right. So this simplistic layout is looking good. Let's start getting this in early and testing it. But before I start getting it early to test it, let's just apply a few textures. I'm gonna apply GLTF materials because one of the things I'm testing is gonna be just straight GLTF style stuff. We're going to call this wood, and for wood, we're going here next. There's the web world template. I have it selected for the next step. But we're not there yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. Well, I was prepared for what the next step is, but we're going to open up a new window and go to my material library. If you're going to be building stuff in 3D, you got to have materials. So you got to find your materials somewhere. I use a site called gametextures.com. Adobe also has an extensive material library that you can get if you have a subscription there. Unfortunately, most of the texture resources sites are not free. GameTextures.com, they have some that are free. There's also opengameart.org. They have some lower resolution stuff that's free. They're not really PBR over there, though. And you want PBR because you at least want normal maps. That's usually important because that's what makes things look super 3D. Sometimes it's important. If you're going to bake everything, maybe it's not so important, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Anyways, let's grab this wood. Tap it. We're going to search this folder for wood. We want like a wood floor. I was afraid of this. How come my good wood textures aren't showing up? It's because they don't have the word wood in them. Yeah, they do. August wood. How come this one didn't show up? Okay, let's go with the black texture. The black wood texture on the ground there. And I'll give it its normal map. No. Good. And I'm going to give it its AO map, kind of to make a point, because this is all going to export, and then later on I'm going to be like, hey, we got so many texture layers here, we got to optimize by removing texture layers, which we will do. We got glossiness going on here, but I don't have a glossiness channel. I think that we're good with these. Okay, so these three materials for wood, and then I'm going to assign them. Before I assign them, I'm going to make one more texture, GLTF. I'm going to have three textures, floor, ceiling, and walls, and then I'm going to drop a prop in here, and we're going to do a little bit with that. So over here, we're going to say walls. And for this, I want to go to my texture library here and find something with plaster in it. Plaster. Painted plaster. Let's go with that. Okay, and one more is the ceiling. Which does not start with the C. So, there's this particular plaster ceiling. I think that it's called Subway. Subway plaster ceiling, PBR generic. Looks good to me. Ooh, it might look a little weird, but we'll find out. All right, get it over here, and I'm going to make one more GLTF material. All right, now we're going to assign plaster to everything. Kind of wish this was white plaster, not tan, but I'll take what I got. And now for the floor, I'm going to assign the floor. Uh-oh, that didn't look right. Now, did it? It's plaster. And then you are floor. Why did everything turn to floor? Oh, I know why. Okay, I got to do this. Now everything will work as I expected. It's because I had my modifier stack was running pretty deep there, and it was confusing things. Okay. Now, I have 3 textures in here. I'll just drop a light in there real quick. One model with 3 textures, and we want lighting, and we're going to do lighting a couple different ways because we're going to be doing baking. Okay, do not adjust your television sets. Active shade is blurry. I'm looking at a blurry screen myself. It's not just because of the stream. So right there, that's what I'm talking about. It kind of just like progressively renders it live so you can get a lighting preview, and it just looks a certain way. Okay. What's wrong with this? Lots. But let me do a little bit more. And we're going to cover a lot of stuff. This is going to be basic 3D modeling stuff. Not basic. Nothing is too basic about 3D modeling. But it's going to be generic stuff that's going to be about preparing our assets for dropping into the webworld SDK and the PlayCanvas editor and making sure that it runs. And I'm talking about on mobile VR devices. I'm talking about on low-end phones. This is how you hyper-optimize something to run everywhere. And for a tiny environment like I'm making, or a pretty small environment, it's not that important to optimize this hard. Maybe it is if you're targeting mobile VR, because you have to optimize a lot to target mobile VR, like a Quest 2. But if you're making a larger map that has, let's say, 50 materials in it, then it is absolutely vital that you do these kind of optimizations because it's amplified. Every different material you use is at least one more draw call and stuff like that. It all builds up. So I'm doing it on a simple example, but not all examples are simple. Let's make this light better. I'm going to make it a quad. Be a 1 meter by 2 meter light. Okay, and I want to make a few of these. Okay, before I clone this, let me save this. Now, let's say that you're making something and you or perhaps don't have a model library yourself sitting around. And I'm going to go ahead and clone this actually because I'm going to use a table for an example or something, or a couch. And you need 3D models to put into there. Like, hey, I need a desk and a lamp and a couch. Where are you going to get a desk and a lamp and a couch at this hour? Well, let me tell you where. So you would get it from something called, it's a website, it's called Base Mesh. The Base Mesh. Now, these assets, they look like they're untextured assets, and they are, but they are UV mapped, which is huge because you can easily paint these either solid colors or with a texture that you get from game textures or you just have on your computer or anything you want. And it's all CC0 assets for you to use and learn from because it really is a learning experience to see like, hey, this is what it's like to work with a model that's properly UV'd and unwrapped and all that. It's good. So let's get 1 or 2 models from here. I'll drop them into the scene and I'll show how that goes. Urban. What do we got for urban? Trash cans. I want like a couch. Where is that at? Furniture? Office. Let's look at what they got for the office. Oh, here's furniture right here. Okay. And my scene looks like what? It looks like this. So I'm going to need a door, right? So let's grab this door right here. I'm just going to click download. It's going to download as an FBX and an OBJ. Both of them work for us. But I don't like that door. I like this door. I'm going to use door 6 instead. Okay, so I got door 6. Let's go ahead and grab a door handle for that door. And I do need a desk of some sort. Let's grab this office desk, and we're going to grab this monitor, and I think we'll be done after that. I did see a monitor. Yeah, there it is. CRT monitor, cathode ray tube. And what do we have there? A chair? I'll get one chair also. One chair, this chair. Okay, so I got a good handful of models there. Now, here's a couple of ways we can use those. First of all, we could do something like this. I'm going to be jumping around here showing different things, so try to stay with me, okay? First thing is, let's create a brand new web world project. Okay, first of all, I am dangerously close to running out of space, I see. So I'm going to have to export one of these bigger spaces that takes up a lot of room. Which room does the museum hall take? 27 megabytes? I got to have something that takes more than 27, right? Apartment world, 64. Okay, so again, jumping around. I'm going to download a backup copy of this apartment world, web world that I made a little while ago. On my projects list, there's this little down arrow here. I'm going to click export project. This is going to download a zip file to my computer that I will be able to restore this project with. So it's like backing it up, right? And since I have it backed up, I can remove it from the cloud in my account here. So after it finishes downloading, because I don't want to just lose this world completely, I'm going to say delete project. And it wants me to type the name out into here. Now it's gone. Let's check one more. Modern House, Freestyle Friday, Web World Auditorium. How about the Lava Stage Web World? This one's 53 megabytes. Let's do the same thing to this Lava Stage Web World. I'm going to export the Lava Stage project. It's going to make it a zip that I could download. And it's not the same as the zip that you build from like the build menu. This is the project export zip. It's important to know the difference. Okay, now that that's backed up, let's go ahead and delete this project. And this should give me a good 100 megabytes to work through this example I am doing. Because as you can see, the account, I think I have like the lowest tier account above free on PlayCanvas.com. There's a 10 gigabyte limit for at the same time what stuff you could have uploaded. All right, so let's say that I went and I'm ready to start my brand new web world project. I go and I grab the web world SDK from the GitLab. You can find it by searching Google for web worlds Medium article or GitLab. But anyways, you download the zip file of the project, and that gives you this thing that I had selected earlier. Web worlds template version 0.1.2 is what we are currently on. So to upload that, I just click import project, and it's like, what do you want to import? Well, I want to import that web worlds thing. It's called web worlds template 0.1.2. And this is what it would be like if I uploaded one of those other project backups that I just made as well, if I wanted to restore it. I just upload it and I wait, and then it pops up. And then I want to name it. I'm going to name it right away so I don't get confused. And I'm going to name this one, what was this called? Web world Web Bake Tests. Web Bake Tests. Save. Edit. And we're rolling. All right. Now I'm actually demonstrating more than just Web Bake Tests here. But here, so we have this awesome resource of base meshes from the base mesh. There's hundreds and hundreds of models here. But they're untextured, which is kind of cool. Now, here's why. I'm going to go easy mode here. Now, this isn't optimized. It could be, actually, but I'm going to go a different route. Anyways, so I go over here to the things that I downloaded, and let's say let's start with the Office desk. Actually, let me make this more organized so I don't get confused myself. Let's make a new folder called Demo Day. We'll call today Demo Day, huh? And here I want to extract CRT monitor, doesn't need that thing there. I want to extract all of these to their own little folders. There they go. Okay, let's delete those. And now we got some good stuff. Here's the Office desk. How am I going to get this into the project? Check it out. Here's where the easy mode comes in. You got this FBX. You can do the exact same thing with the GLB, by the way, because the PlayCanvas editor supports either GLB or FBX the exact same. It matters not. So we're going to drag and drop this FBX into our Asset Explorer, and it's going to upload it, it's going to process it, and it's going to give us the thing that we want to spawn, which is the template asset. The template asset. And we're going to drop it in here. And look at that. We got this amazing table. I'm going to build a whole little scene with this base mesh stuff. Because we also need a folding chair. Drag and drop in the FBX. And notice, okay, first of all, make sure you drop your FBX into where you want it to live in your Asset Explorer. I almost made it a subfolder of Office Desk, and that would have been weird. So instead, I'm just going to go back to root and then upload it to there. Drag and drop it into there. Again, if you're making a tiny scene, then managing your assets carefully isn't so important. But if your scene is going to grow pretty large, it is really important to have good naming conventions and folder structures. Okay, so now I got my folding chairs. I'll drop this into the root in there. I have my folding chair. These are pretty well optimized. They're kind of high poly, relatively speaking, for some things, but I mean they're really, really good. You see, I mean, when you get close enough, you should be able to see edges like that. That means it's a good model. So yeah, we're in good shape still. I'm going to show painting these in a moment. But yeah, what are we doing? We downloaded some FBXs from thebasemesh.com. Then we unzipped them, and we're dragging and dropping their FBXs straight into the Asset Explorer. Like so. That uploads them, processes them, and then we can drop them into the scene. I was dropping them into the hierarchy a moment ago. That works. You can also drop them right into the scene. Check this out. You can drag the template asset straight into here. Blam! There it goes. The camera even focuses on it when you do it that way. One quick tip when working in the PlayCanvas editor here, you can't just click on the model and then rotate the gizmo that appears, unfortunately. And that's because of hierarchy, scene hierarchy. You see, when I clicked on that screen, it selected the visual mesh, which was the monitor shell. But there's also the power button and the stand and all these other things. I want to rotate all of them together. So to do that, I actually do have to go over here to the hierarchy and click on this top level one there. Now I can rotate it. Shift rotate snaps to 5-degree increments. Cool. Okay, I think I wanted to drop one more model into the scene to show. Oh no, a couple more. We got the door. We're going to drop the door into there. And we got a couple things that go with the door. So these things that go with the door, I'll still drop them into the base folder. Yeah, I don't want to get too confusing here. So the door handle, we'll drop that into here. And then the next thing is that door lock. Did I have a door lock? Maybe I didn't download the door lock. Yeah. Okay, we don't need the door lock. We got the door, we got the door handle, we got all this good stuff. All right. So let's spawn that door into here. And we'll give it the door handle also. Oh, wow, that was weird. It put it inside of the door for a moment, which is probably good. Now, how fun is this, right? I didn't have to 3D model anything. I'm just dropping stuff into the scene. It's like a game. All right, now let's see what we got here. Let's click the launch button to test. That door is pretty appropriately sized. If our guy is a hero. The chair looks kind of small. Okay, everything looks a little small. So let's scale everything up a little bit. All these base mesh models I spawned in. Which was the desk, the chair, the monitor, the door, and the door handle. Put them up like that. Now the door handle has to be moved over a little bit. And the computer monitor has to be adjusted some. How's that? That's better. You don't feel claustrophobic going through the door. Oh, my floor is a little bit too high, I see. Oh, my floor. Okay. My floor is good height there. Now, let's show what it's like to paint these. Well, let's do a few more optimizations first. I'm going to hide my actual player walking around because I'm going to be doing some performance testing. So I really just want to hide his model. So I'll do that. The other thing is all these other objects in the scene, I don't want them. So I'll hide them. I believe all of them. Intro camera I'll want, floor I'll want, and spawn point I'll want. But everything else can be disabled. Oh, wait, no, actually, it looks like I wanted a light. Light over here. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the profiler. So let's say that you are interested in optimizing, which is what we're talking about today. You would turn on the profile, and the profiler shows you things. Well, I hid my character because the character is like a variable. There's different avatars. You don't know how much the avatar that this person is out of your control. But the stuff in your scene is not out of your control. So what do we got here? We got 6 shaders and 8 materials rendering 15,000 triangles. We have 14 different mesh instances. We're doing 28 draw calls. And our VRAM is this much. Vertex buffers is 2.7 and texture, or the total for everything, is 2.56 megabytes. Perfect. VRAM, you have to watch out for that when you're targeting mobile. And the draw calls, you have to watch out for that when you're targeting good performance, especially on mobile. All right, so can we reduce this? Sure. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Do a little experimenting, actually. We're going to make one material, and we're going to assign it to everything and see if that helps at all. It most likely will not. Here is, we'll just call it universal. Universal material, which we will make pink. Let's assign it to everything. Now, it looks like I'm just coloring things a certain color, and I am, but later on, I'll show that it doesn't have to be a solid color, and that's why that's when the UV mapping of the stuff from the base mesh comes into it. Because the models have UV mapping, you're able to actually apply textures, not just solid colors, which is great. Okay, so let's see how that's doing. We have 14 mesh instances, 28 draw calls. Nothing's changed. Good. That's good. Light mapper. We will be looking at light statistics as well, eventually. Okay, now let's try batch rendering. Now, I don't think that we're going to be able to batch render these, even though they have the same material, and I think it's because they're different meshes. So let's see. So we were at how many draw calls? We were at 28 draw calls. Let's try to batch render together some stuff and see if that takes us down below that 28. So how do you do batch rendering? Well, first you have to define a batch group. I will call this pink stuff. Then you have to put other things onto that batch group. We'll call this pink stuff. And they at least have to be sharing the same material. Okay, now, there's everything on the same batch group. Let's refresh and see if it did anything, because those were all separate meshes. It might be that batch rendering can't do anything for those. However, that is not the case. Check this out. We went from 28 draw calls to 4. How did we do that? Let's analyze that. Well, these models, they aren't even the same model, so they don't have to be the same model. They do need to be the same material. And I went into them and put them all, I defined a batch group, and now they render as a cluster. I threw them all onto one batch group. There are cases where you don't want too much stuff on one batch group. If you have a large environment, you got to be thinking in clusters and about hiding clusters, batch groups in this case, that are going to be occluded for some reason. But in a small environment, you don't need to worry about that. Maybe even a medium environment, you don't need to worry about that. But yeah, look at that. Using the batch rendering, we got it down from 28 to 4. Wow. Now, let's break that. Let's go and assign some different materials to stuff and see how that impacts the draw calls. So, the stuff that I was doing in 3ds Max earlier, which we will be getting back to and using, let's do some more of the tests here to show that if I set up those same materials here, it's going to break the batch rendering, because you can't use different materials and batch rendering at the same time. So over here, we'll call this materials. The inside materials, I'm going to kind of rebuild the same stuff that I did a moment ago from my material library. So I go over here to Jedi Archives Material Library, and we're going to do the August wood floor. Oh, there's an even better floor, but I was using this one. Fine. You know what? I can use this one if I wanna. So we're going to upload that, the AO, and the normal map. These are 2K textures I'm uploading. It might impact my internet a little bit. And this is because I'm showing optimization stuff, right? So you might be tempted to drop in gigantic images. And that works, and it's super clear, and it's awesome. But at the end, we're going to be like, hey, this is not good because these textures are so high resolution that they are lagging things down. Now, PlayCanvas got automatic texture bitmapping added recently. Did that happen, or was I dreaming? I'll have to check, because maybe we don't have to manually resize these things. Maybe it didn't happen. Maybe there was something else that got that. Anyways, let's make this wood material here. And we'll quickly just give it the albedo, and it automatically assigns our normal and stuff. And we'll make the floor use the wood. Ooh, it's so pretty. Let's make it tile, though. All right, we have a pretty wood texture now. If I refresh, now we were 4 draw calls. Now I put a different material on the floor, and let's see what happens. We are still 4 draw calls. How is this even possible? Maybe it's because it was a primitive that we put it on. Let's find out. Let's put a different texture on the door. Okay, that's uploading the textures. I can start making the material. The material will be called door. And I will be assigning door to here, and then I'll be customizing door to use this albedo, which will make it automatically assign the AO and normals. So you see how good that door looks? And I just put a regular texture onto it. This was not a special texture. So that door looks really good thanks to the base mesh having pre-UV mapped models. So the base mesh is good. That's one thing we should take from this. I'm going to refresh this here and see what our draw calls are looking like now. Now we're up to 6 draw calls because now we're starting to get into the territory where the we can't batch render because it's using a different material than the other stuff in the batches. Well, let's test that theory. Let's turn off the batch on the door and see if that does anything. So if I go to the door and I make it not batch rendered, I refresh here, are we still at 6 draw calls? I'm saying yes. And yes, we are still at 6 draw calls because the door having a different material than the other stuff in the batch group made the batch rendering useless. So now let's test one more thing. We know that you got to at least have the same material. What about being the same model? So what if we go to the desk and we assign the door to the desk and we put the door onto another batch group. Okay, so before I do that, let's go ahead and put pink back on to here. We'll go to the door and we'll put the door on its own batch group called door stuff. Okay, now we go over here and we refresh and we keep our eye on the draw calls, and I'm thinking it's still going to be unchanged at 6. It is, because it's on a batch group by itself. That's not going to impact render calls at all. But now we're going to take the desk, we're going to apply the same material as the door to it, and we're going to put the desk. Okay, that alone won't change anything. So let's take this one step at a time, right? I refresh, and it's going to be 6 draw calls still because we have well, it should be like even more now, shouldn't it? These 2 things aren't reducing draw calls. Okay, wait a second. Maybe they are. But let's see what happens when we put this onto. Oh. Wait a second. This is supposed to be called door stuff. There. This would be called pink stuff still, because I have to repeat that test I did a moment ago. I messed up making my new batch group. All right. So this is going to be unchanged at 6. Yeah, and then we go and we assign the material to this. And then we refresh, and then we remain unchanged at 6. But then when I go and I merge the... oh, look, now we're even more draw calls. Okay, now this is making sense. Because this thing, it can no longer be batched. The desk is still on the pink batch group, but it could no longer be batched in with the rest of the stuff because it's not the same material. So it's increasing our draw calls. To 8. Now I should be able to bring it back down to at least 7 by going to put this from pink stuff onto door stuff. Let me try one more thing, actually. I'm going to try putting it on no draw call or no batch group. Hopefully it's still 8. It might be 7. It's still 8. Now, I do the final test where it's on door stuff, and this was where we'll see it drop to 7 or all the way back down to... It did. I think it dropped all the way back down to 6. Yes. So, they do not need to be the same model. They do need to be the same material, and then they can be batch grouped. So, that's great. That's really, really good. And maybe we're not going to have to bake the lighting in 3ds Max. There are still reasons why we could do some baking lighting, but we're going to try to go this route and keep our draw calls super low with batch groups. Let's do that. All right. So, and that's kind of, I was planning on doing that anyways, but now I see it's actually pretty feasible because we don't need to merge all the models into one thing. So, here is what we're going to do. It could still be higher quality though. So my door looks pretty good, right? Because it's from Base Mesh, but it could be better if I put it through Substance Painter. But let's not. Let's just follow through on this here. So we're not going to worry about the lighting in here very much. We mostly just want the structure. Here's the structure. Let's export it. Let's call it struct. Okay, and now we're going to file export this thing. We could export its materials, and I will export its materials. But before I do, I'm going to change its wood to be that brown wood that I liked. No, we're not going to export its materials. We're fine, because I already have most of these materials built. I'll have them built in another place. Okay, I'm going to export selected, and I'm going to export this thing as webbaketests.fbx. I am not even going to bother exporting the materials by unchecking that embed media button. Let's upload this FBX we just created to the Asset Explorer, the Asset Panel. Now we got this thing popping up. We'll go ahead and drop this into our root. And here we are. Now, is this a huge scene? Let's see. It's pretty big. I can't see my avatar, so I will bring that back for right now. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, everything's real large. Let's make the things not so large. We can do that. I'll just grab the web bake tests here. Scale it down, like so. We do no longer need our floor here. We want collisions here, so I'm going to add a physics collider and a physics rigid body. And for the mesh collider, I'm going to use the struct render asset. So I'm using the visual mesh as the colliding mesh, and that's fine because it's such a simple room. And with that, I think that I'm ready to... Oh, wait, no, the materials still. We still need the materials. So if I select this thing and I say, here's the wood. Oh, you know what? My UV maps were all wrong here. Let's fix the UV maps. Let's do a little UV mapping. Even though we're not baking, we still need to set up the UVs here. Ooh, I just thought of something. I could bake lighting. If the base mesh models, I'm going to test something on the base mesh models. Do you guys have UV1 set up is my question. So if I go over here and I say that we're light map. UV1s are missing. Oh, come on, base mesh. You could have surprised me there. Anyways, I won't get into what I was trying there right now. It will come up though, because that's how you do optimize the real-time lighting. Anyways, man, let's take it one step at a time. We're gonna go over here and we're gonna do a UV unwrap on here because we need to give you unique UV space to this thing. We're gonna go into the here and look at what the UVs look like. The UVs look bad because the walls don't have anything. So let's do something here. Let's quick peel. It's no good. Let's do a couple at a time then. Mapping, if we want real world mapping, we want it to be like that. Okay, and then to invert everything and do unfold mapping. Which makes it one huge strip. I need a few different pieces. Do this mapping, detach edge verts. Sorry, I'm not explaining the stuff I'm doing right now. It's really abstract. But what I'm basically doing is making it so when I click this button, it packs things in a not so insane way. This is fine. Is this fine? No. Maybe this will be fine. We got to everything, detach edge verts, and then lay it out like this. It should not be as difficult as it is being for me right now. All that I want is real world mapping on this, and because I'm used to doing the bake in this menu, but I'm doing a different approach right now. We're audibling to doing the batch rendering groups. So I need real world mapping on these things, but I'm gonna see a button for that. Maybe that's it. Yeah, that was it. Okay, so I think that will do for my UV mappings. Maybe not. Yeah, maybe so. We're good. Let's go ahead and export that again. Export selected bake tests over here. Now here's something cool. When I upload the updated version of that FBX, the PlayCanvas editor here is going to know that it's the same asset and replace the asset that I already have, and that's why the ground appeared nice in there. Okay, how about the walls? Let's get the walls in there. That was something with the word plaster in it. Let's get that. And is there any AO on this? There's not any AO. So we want that, and we want the normal, and that's it. Ceiling. For the ceiling, I had a texture that started with the word subway. Right there. Okay, I see my UVs are not correct on some of these walls. That's unfortunate, but what are you going to do? I know I got to go back 3ds Max and fix it, but before I do that, let's get this other one in there. And that's already in there as the ceiling. It's not. Now it is. Okay, some notes here. To go back to 1, and we'll take 4. The scale of the UVs and that error with the UV unwrapping. Okay, let's fix all that stuff. So over here, we had some errors with our UV mapping here, fellas. Okay, now we're perfect. Let's be perfect on the floor and the ceiling now, fellas. Not quite. That's better. Okay, now we got acceptable mapping. Let's re-export this thing. Re-import it into here. Ah, they put it in the subfolder. I did not want it to go into the subfolder. So you got to be careful where you upload your assets to. I'm going back to the root here and uploading it there. And it will automatically update and fix the resolutions and the UV mapping. There we go. Looking good. And then we have the door, which I'm going to call wood. And then I want metal. So I'm going a very different route. I'm actually not baking. I'm trying out batch rendering groups and seeing how far I can press that today. So I'm sorry for being misleading with the first part, but after seeing how well batch grouping works with models that weren't merged together, I just got to try this out. Okay, so the key still. So now I'm kind of in the mind state of making a level like for an old school video game where you had very, very limited VRAM in your texture pack. So you had to reuse the same textures over and over again very creatively. I got wood, I got plaster, I got ceiling. Let's get a metal and a plastic in here. And with a metal, a plastic, a wood, and plaster and all that kind of stuff, I should be able to do a lot. Even with the texturing, some more models from the base mesh that I'm going to bring in. So let's create a metal texture. I'm slapping 2K textures with multiple material layers onto these models, so they're not going to be hyper optimized right out the gate like we were talking about earlier, but they'll be all right, and they could be further optimized. Scratched brush metal. Sure, I'll take scratched brush metal. Does it have an AO? It has no significant AO, so I'll just take the metal and the normal. Oh, Coca-Cola late. Okay, new material. Metal with a capital And for the diffuse, I'll give it the textures I just uploaded. Did I upload any textures? Should be under S. I did. There is brush steel. And there's the normal. Metal. Metal. That's going to be plastic. The screen, what's the screen going to be? That might be something else yet. How about that plastic? Let's grab a plastic. I know that I have plastic in here. What's the top one? The first one is plastic. And we got a black albedo with no AO and normal. So, okay. I could reconstruct this. I'll have to play around with the other properties some, just like I should with the metal. And the wood should be a little shiny. Okay, the plastic. Do I have the plastic material made? I don't think so. Why is that plastic that color? I don't want it to be black plastic. I want it to be like tan plastic. Like that. There. That is more to my liking. Okay, and I also want to assign that to all these other things. And And for the screen, I'll make yet another material, and I'll call this one green. Okay, now let's look at our draw calls and start analyzing that, just like we did before. Let's not look at our texture memory because that's going to be wasted with all the stuff. All right, we're back to 18 draw calls, which is what we were at before I had any batch groups in here. Okay, what can we batch group? Well, we could batch group together the stuff in here, and we'll batch group it together by the material now, so we'll call it wood stuff. And then we'll put this thing on wood stuff also. This one, we'll put it on a new one called metal stuff. And we'll put these two things on metal stuff. Screen stuff. Even though this is the only one we have so far, I do expect that I'll be spawning some more stuff with screens. We don't want pink stuff anymore or door stuff. We just want these kind of things. Okay. Screen stuff. Okay. Then over here, this should be on plastic stuff. Okay, that's there, but we also want the power button and the monitor base all to be on plastic stuff. Now I think everything is on a layer. We got this on wood, this is on metal, this is on plastic, this is on wood, this is on metal. Okay, now I had to manually set up those batch groups. Let's see if it paid off. There are plugins for this editor that automatically set up batch groups on the fly dynamically. But it's good to know how it works under the hood. So we are still at 18 draw calls. Why is that? Oh, let's try hiding my little guy walking around. I forgot about that. Now we're at 14 draw calls. The batch rendering stuff, did it help us at all? It should have. Folder hierarchy or a model hierarchies perhaps got in the way. Okay, we have 14 draw calls here. Oh, check this out. I forgot about this. We can do progressive draw calls. Okay. Here's one draw call. The screen is another one. So look, it did render. It rendered all of our plastic pieces in one draw call. This is really useful view, by the way. I draw camera draw calls limit. I set it to camera, and that's how I got here. Okay, then the next draw call, it adds the screen. Okay, awesome. The third draw call is the chair and the door handle all in one draw call. That's what we wanted. Then we got the door and so the draw calls are working. I probably, by introducing the additional shader layers, like the shininess stuff, I probably introduced extra draw calls. What happens on draw call 5? I don't know. 6. 6 is the walls. Okay, all together, by the way. That's great. And that naturally happened because they were all batched together in the model. Then the floor, and then the ceiling, and then the reflections and stuff start happening. So we are in good shape, although I would like to see that number lower. Now let's see if we can get it lower by changing stuff in the wood material. I'm going to get rid of AO, and I'm going to get rid of the normal map. Did that impact draw calls at all? It didn't. We're still at 14. So that particular shader did not. But if you do stuff like refraction and other fancy shaders, it definitely will. And it impacts performance either way. However, let's bring back that door Warm Virgin Good normal and the ambient on it. There it is. Okay. All right, so we're at 14 draw calls, and we could basically make as many wood objects or metal objects. We can make as many objects of these materials as we want and not have to increase our draw calls at all. Let's put that statement to the test by adding some more stuff from the base mesh. Let's get a little nuts with it. Let's get this chair. Oh, yeah, we want that chair. How about this little filing cabinet thing? We need that. We're going to need some industrial shelving. Yes, we will. I'll make more chairs, but we're also going to want a filing cabinet. And what is an office without a pin tidy? And a picture frame. A retro computer case. Yeah, let's get that. And then the shelving unit. And then this table. And we'll grab one of these small plastic chairs. We'll grab a stapler. Okay, I think that's enough stuff. We got a lot of stuff. Let's go get this where we want it to be. I have a folder for this, demo day. I'll make yet another folder so I know which ones I've already uploaded. So I'm going to try to texture in PlayCanvas editor. So we're kind of going easy mode today, heavily leveraging the PlayCanvas editor. And we're going to try to batch these things together. So I have about 30 minutes left in the stream here. I might have to conclude this scene next time. But we're covering some good stuff here. And this scene is going to look pretty impressive by the time, in 30 minutes after I get all these models in there. Okay, star.fbx to just show me all of the FBXs side by side because I'm uploading all of these things. So all together now, I'm just going to upload 11 FBXs and let it do its thing. What is it already done? Oh, it's already done. That was fast. It's because there was no materials. All right, so I'm going to grab this template, drop it into my scene. There, that looks pretty cool. But the textures, what about the textures on this thing? I want the whole thing to be metal, I think. Yeah, so I'll just select everything, and I'll drag and drop metal into there. Nice. Oops. See how textured that is? I like it. So let's grab this. Oh, another thing is I want to put all of these things onto the metal stuff. Batch group. And then I'll go ahead and position it over here. Put several of those. Now I just added a lot of objects, right? Let's see how it impacted draw calls. We were at 14 draw calls with 0 filing cabinets. We're all the way up to 4 filing cabinets. And we are at 16 draw calls. Why is that? Well, I'm not exactly sure. Let's find out. Camera. So plastic, all 1 draw call. All the filing cabinets were 1 draw call. But the chair was a different one. And it might be that the engine automatically broke those up because they're kind of far apart from each other. It could be that. Okay. So there's the filing cabinet. We got to work on the lighting a little bit here. I can't bake the lighting from these lights because UV0 or UV1s are not set up. The UVs for lighting aren't set up on the base mesh models. Or my model. I could set them up on mine, but setting up the baked lighting stuff on all the these wouldn't be easy from PlayCanvas. I'd have to bring them into 3ds Max, and at that point, I would be better off just doing everything in 3ds Max probably. But I want to build this scene out in here, not in 3ds Max. So we got this door over here, and let's add something to this door because we can't just have a door. What's a door without a door frame? The UV mapping on this shape I just made is going to be odd because unlike the UV mapping on the door itself, it's not real world coordinates, so it's kind of stretched. You see that wood behind is kind of stretched, but that's okay. We'll roll with it. This door is incorrect anyways because door is actually set inside of door jams, but I don't want to model a door jam right now. So this is how our door looks. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Let's get all this stuff moved over. Okay, we're still at 18 draw calls. It's good. I'm going to unhide my character and just ignore how many draw calls he contributes. So the 18, 19, 20, 21. I added 3 draw calls because of my character. I'll just ignore that. Okay, now these things don't have to be perfect instances of one another. Not complete instances. So these things could be, the chairs could be twisted differently, things could be scaled differently, there could be differences. Okay, let's get some of these other assets spawned into the scene. Industrial shelving. Yeah. But before industrial shelving, we need more filing cabinets. A couple backup chairs. Looking good. Let my dog in. Come on, Pooch. Industrial shelving. I can dig it. This shelving. This looks like metal shelving to me. Yeah, see? So I'm going to throw the metal onto it, and I'm going to put it onto the metal stuff batch group. We got a letter rack. This little letter rack looks like it should be metal to me. Which means it should be on the metal stuff batch group. All right. What else do we got here? I got a letter rack. We have a lounge chair. We're lounging, all right. Now this lounge chair. Oh, let's texture this thing here. What do we got? We have one texture on the whole chair. It's not going to be a very comfortable chair. Let's make it wood. That's something. What if we made it plastic? That's not too good. Metal? It's not the worst. That chair's bad. Let's get rid of that chair. No lounge chair. No lounge chair for us. I'm going to delete it from here too. Because it wasn't easy enough to texture. We got the pin tidy. Let's get that in there. So the pin tidy should be on plastic stuff. I forgot to do that. Now that I put it on plastic stuff, is this on metal stuff? It is. Now that I put it on plastic stuff, I can clone it. Okay, what else do we have here? We got a photo frame. It's like a desktop photo frame. Jenkins, shut up. Pooch. All right, Pooch. So we'll scale it up some. This probably has 2 textures in it. I hope. This is also just one thing. Okay, we can work with that. Let's make it either wood or metal. I guess it could be plastic. Okay, it could be like that. And then this goes to floor stuff, which I didn't have before. And as part of this thing, inside of it, I want to put a plane. That is on screen stuff. Okay, and photo frame I can clone and move around now. And it will not impact draw calls. Okay, we're looking good. We're at 25 draw calls. Lots of stuff in here. I added another batch group for that dark color wood, which is only used on the floor mostly, but I'm going to put a few more models in here and we'll see how that goes. Retro computer. Let's put that in there. My computer is made out of plastic. Which means that it could go onto the plastic stuff. Batch group. Cool. What else do I have? A shelving unit. Ah, yes. This shelving unit should be wood, probably. Yeah. And that means that it could go onto the wood stuff batch group. This one's supposed to be plastic. It has plastic in its name. Good, good. Oh man, I forgot to put them onto the plastic stuff batch group. There we go. Okay, I got about 15 minutes left in this run. I don't think I'm falling behind on chat. I don't see any shadows cast on the ground, which is weird. Oh, it's because it was static, wasn't it? Let's try it again. Oh, there's the shadows. Look at those shadows on the ground. They're pretty good, but I don't want them. Let's go back here and let's turn off the cast shadows. Okay. This is fine. Let's get some more stuff in here in our 15 minutes. We got a square table. We're still just at 24 draw calls, even though I'm adding all these objects in because of the texture sharing. Maybe these should be metal, though. Yeah, probably. I got a stapler. Okay, with all that, I'm still at really good amounts of draw calls. VRAM, I'm up to 257 megabytes, which is insane. I would need to lower all the resolution of these textures because, like I said, these are 2K textures with 2K AO maps and 2K normal maps. It's overkill. But as far as the draw calls, I think I could add more stuff. I'm going to go back to base mesh. I'm running out of time here. I only got 2 minutes, but I'm going to go back to base mesh. I'm going to get more stuff. Okay, let's grab these now. And let's see how many we can drop into the scene in the few minutes that I have left here. So, this isn't going to be an all-in-one optimization tutorial as it turns out because I'm focusing so much on stress testing how many of these props I can get into batch groups without killing my draw calls. However, the one takeaway that you can take away from today is draw calls and this profiler button. Click the profiler button, you get into here with all this stuff down here. If you go, you want to keep your draw calls and your VRAM down. VRAM is like texture size and stuff like that. Draw calls is how many different textures you have. So VRAM total, you want to keep it low. And draw calls, you want to keep as low as possible. And if you change it to draw calls limit to camera, you can see exactly what's in each draw call, which helps. Optimize things. Okay. Continuing for my last 10 minutes here. I'm going to upload all of these FBXs. Already done, pretty much. Let's get the computer mouse into here. Why are all the computers CRTs old school computers? I don't know. Okay, this thing is going to be plastic, I bet. Which means it could be on plastic stuff. And now that it's in a batch group, I could start cloning it all over. This guy's right-handed, so his mouse is on the right side. Computer speakers. Fun. Plastic stuff. I forgot to assign it to. Okay. We are still at 26 draw calls. Everything I'm adding is inconsequential, which is the point of all this. Okay. What we got now? We got a cardboard box. Okay. Wood stuff. Metal stuff. I forgot to put on metal stuff. So one thing that merging would definitely help with is network requests. Each individual file, depending on how your server is configured, it's a completely separate network request, which is often the bottleneck for really small file-sized things that happen to spread out over many files. So we want to avoid that also. Plastic stuff. And we're not really working towards avoiding that with the setup that I have right now, with all of these models being separate files from base mesh. Base mesh is awesome. These are good models. But if everything was merged, then it would get the entire scene's assets in one network request, and that's good. Okay, so that was the coffee cup. Let's put another coffee cup over here. Now we got desktop lamp. How many materials are on this thing? Just one. All right, it could be metal. Already on metal stuff. Good, good, good. Plastic stuff. Now let's put the light switches. I got light switches. I got vents. I'm going to go a little bit over time here. I'm already 2 minutes over time. I got my eye on my DMs. If I'm cutting into somebody else's time, I'm hoping somebody DMs me because I want to keep going a few more minutes here and get this thing to a milestone. So that was a light switch. Now we got a mounted picture frame. How is this thing all just one texture? Oh, that's okay. Now I remember how. Actually, it's fine. I'm gonna make this metal. I'll put this onto metal stuff, batch group. And then inside of here, I create a new plane, which is on the screen stuff because it has the screen on there. And I just rotate it like this. There we are. Maybe it should be a wooden frame. Yeah, let's go with the wooden frame. Wood stuff. Somebody left their coffee cup on top of the filing cabinet. Uh-oh. This guy over here, he just loves coffee. Name plaque. Damn it, I messed up. On all of these images, I put them on wood stuff. They should have been on floor stuff because I used the floor texture, not the wood texture. Floor stuff, okay. Did I do the same thing here? No, that's good. Okay, all right. Back to where I was, which was nameplates. Good stuff. Okay, so this looks pretty good here. Okay. Okay, we're still at 32 draw calls. And that did not increase my draw calls. That's the point. So let's clone a few more of these things. I should have cloned different desks instead of just cloning that one desk 3 times. But I'm in a hurry because I'm already over time. But look at my draw calls. They are not going insane. I just added like 100 objects to the scene, and my draw calls barely changed at all. They went up by like 2. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's keep it going. almost starting to look impressive with the complexity of the scene. Okay, the vents I haven't used, and the poster I haven't used. I don't think I need the poster because I have the picture frames. So the vents... Is this a storage box or is this a cardboard box? No, it's a cardboard box. What's a storage box? I haven't used the storage box. Okay, wood. Let's get wood on this box. Wood. Yeah. Oh, there's 2 textures on this box. Isn't that special? Cool. Okay, so the wood will be on wood stuff. The top, which is plastic, will be on plastic stuff. Let's scale it up and put a few of these in here. We got some real good ventilation in here, especially because if there's time, I'm going to be looking for a ceiling fan also. Although to animate the ceiling fan, I'd want to move it through 3ds Max, so that might be tricky. Because I don't feel like exporting anything new, anything else from 3ds Max. The turn of events pushed us away from 3ds Max today, so why go back there? Okay, we got, that's vent number 2. I have wall clock and a writing desk. I think I'll just delete the writing desk. But I'll use the wall clock. It'd be a nice metallic wall clock. And I believe with that, that is it. Did I put that on the metal? I did not. This needs to be on metal stuff. Okay, let's try refreshing and see how badly our draw calls are murdered. They should be around 26, all things considered. But they're at 47, and that means that I screwed up somewhere and I forgot to put something on a batch layer that should have been there. Drat. Okay, we got this thing, that's metal on metal, all right. This thing, that's metal on metal. The clocks are metal. That's wood, this is wood, and that's plastic. Okay, maybe we're good. Why do I have 22 skinned meshes all of a sudden? Something that I spawned was skinned when it should not have been. But I have a scene here with hundreds of objects in it, and our draw calls are bouncing between 36 and 40, even with our character model included, which is at least 3 skinned meshes. So this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Now 30 whatever draw calls is high for a web targeting mobile devices on web. So perhaps this isn't going to get us all the way to web optimization, this approach. However, it was really, really easy for me to do this. I used the level editor. I used PlayCanvas like the level editor, put all the models in there, and I'm able to freely move them around and resize them and clone them pretty much as many times as I want without having a huge drastic impact on the performance because of the batch groups. And it's easy for me to build because I'm doing it in the level editor instead of the 3D modeling program. However, if I did this in the 3D modeling program, I could have amazing looking lights like this. If this doesn't take forever to render up, because sometimes it does take forever to do the first render. I can have amazing lighting baked in, but if I did that, I'd have to worry about texture resolutions. I don't have to worry about texture resolutions the way that I did it here. I'll go ahead and let that thing think whether it wants to render or not. I don't have to worry about the texture resolutions here so much, although I do. I would need to downsize these. I don't want to use 2K. But the point is I can use tiling textures, the same texture repeating over and over again, so lower resolution textures actually look more acceptable when you do it that way. when you bake them out, everything's sharing one UV sheet, and texture resolution definitely becomes an issue. And that's why a lot of the baked out environments you see using solid colored textures on the walls and all the objects, because it's harder to spot low resolution UV maps on solid colored textures. So if maybe next time I'll go through doing it all in 3ds Max, and the output would be tricky there, because this is I specifically made a level that was big enough that it would run into issues with resolution, and I would have to chunk things out and have multiple 2K textures floating around in my texture bake. So it's not exactly not complex there the other route either. So when it comes to easy mode, and it comes to hard mode, and it comes to how far you can get with your build, 3ds Max is definitely hardest mode, or Blender, or Cinema 4D, or Maya, whatever you use. 3D modeling software to render everything out and bake it out, definitely the hardest mode, but also definitely the most optimized, so you can get the hyper optimized stuff baked all out like that. A step down from there is taking the time and effort like we did today to set up batch groups in the PlayCanvas editor over here, and making sure that we set up only objects that shared a material to be in the same batch groups together. And we can use the profiler to debug what our batch groups are ending up as, which I should have done earlier when I was wondering what was happening. All that rendered together, all of the coffee cups rendered together, all of those things rendered together, then all of the screens, or it looks like most of the screens, not all the screens. Yeah, the screens for some reason were broken up into 2 calls. Then those things which are metal, which I don't know why they broke up in their own calls. All this other metal stuff clumped together, but you can really see what gets rendered in clumps there. And this is all doing the stuff in the editor. Now, I'll leave on a few notes. First of all, the texture resolution for this approach that I did here, where I mostly did everything in the editor with the batch groups. Texture resolution still matters. Still got to go in, reduce the amount of the texture resolution, and reduce the complexity of the shader. So if you don't need the normal maps or you don't need the AO, get rid of it. The other thing is lighting. So the draw calls, that's a huge performance and impact. And certain types of lighting, they also add draw calls. Like if you have a light that casts shadows, that's going to add draw calls. So lighting and shadows is the other huge component to the runtime performance of your scene that you're making. To fix that, to reduce the runtime draw calls, there's a few approaches. Now I'll say, that first method of doing everything super hard mode in 3ds Max, that automatically gets your draw calls down to like 1, because you're baking it, or however many materials you have to use, because it bakes it all down, and everything shares the same texture atlas, so it shares draw calls. It's all one model at that point. It can't tell the difference, so it's really baking everything to just be indistinguishable one model, and it can render all together. So that's hyper optimized, that hard mode. But you could still reduce your draw calls without doing all that, and with the approaches I just mentioned, with the batch rendering, but with the lighting. I'm sorry for getting back on the draw calls. The lighting, okay, which does impact draw calls, but it does more than that. Real-time lighting. You want to have 0 real-time lights in your scene. You can't have 0 real-time lights because you want to light avatars, okay? So even if you have a completely lit scene, you still want to add 1 directional light in there to light the avatars. At least 1, usually 2 for the highlight and then the backlight. So you're going to have 2 real-time lightings if you want to have nice-looking avatars. Can't get around that. But the stuff in the scene, there's various things you could do with that. One thing I'm not going to cover right now is light mapping and baking the lights. So I've talked about baking the lights in 3ds Max. Well, check this out. You can bake the lights in the PlayCanvas editor right in the webworld's SDK template too. You don't have to do it in 3ds Max. Now, the lighting that you bake out in the editor will be like the editor's lighting system. So it's not going to be super, super amazing realistic stuff like you get out of Blender or 3ds Max. But it will be really, really fluid, meaning that you could go over here and move the chair around and immediately your shadows, well, not immediately, you'd have to click the little calculate light button there if you're doing it optimized. But your shadows just instantly almost are updated. There's no re-exporting, re-importing, any of that stuff. So light maps baked from the editor is the other almost as hard as 3ds Max. So you have to use 3ds Max to do it. So it is still hard mode using this light map baker. So I guess no matter how you spin it, baking light maps is an advanced thing to do. But when you do it inside of the editor, you have that freedom still of moving the objects around and then clicking the button to bake it. The reason I couldn't do it today is because of these meshes that I got from the base mesh, which are awesome meshes, but I would have to process them so that they have the correct UV mapping, invisible UV mapping to take baked lighting. And what do I mean by that? Well, you see right here where when I try to turn on light map, it says that UV1 is missing. So UV0 is the UV layer that you see textures applied to. So like the surface of the table, that's all using the UV layer 0. And I can't explain what a UV map is right now. You just got to already know what that is. So what is UV1? UV1 is an invisible UV layer that you don't really see affect anything until you bake lighting. And here's shortly why UV1 and UV2 are different. It has to do with tiling textures somewhat. I mean, there's other reasons too, but the UV0 on this table has tiling textures, while a light map cannot tile. A light map UV sheet has to be unique UV space across the whole thing. So if you were going to use your lighting UV, like UV1, as your diffuse UV for like the wood grain, it would look kind of like a mess because there's no tiling textures on a lighting UV sheet. It would potentially look like a mess, but I'll just say one confusing thing here at the end before I wrap up my overtime here. Almost 40 minutes over. When you do that ultra hard mode, one of the ultra hard modes, because I was talking about 2 hard modes in 3ds Max, you can use, so a moment ago I talked about baking UV0s and UV1s out separately so you could have tiling textures. I don't think I mentioned this actually. And then you could also apply that light map on top. You could do that using 3ds Max, or you could do that using the light map baker inside the editor. Your mileage will vary. 3ds Max has better light calculations, but you have to re-export every time, while if you use the editor light map baker, you don't have to re-export every time, but it doesn't have as high quality lighting and shadows. You could also use your UV, your unique UV space to bake your lighting in also. And that's when it comes to that, when I mentioned earlier that baked stuff often has that certain kind of look to it. That's what I was talking about. When they use just one UV layer and they don't use 2 UV layers, they can't tile the textures. And when you can't tile the textures, that's when it's like, hey, I'm going to use a solid color instead of the wood grain because the resolution is going to be so low after I bake the textures that you'll be able to see pixels and stuff otherwise. So with all that, optimization is probably the most technical and hardest thing you're going to do in 3D modeling, and you have to do it always. You're naturally going to do it always. After you learn how to optimize, and then you're 3D modeling your next model, you're going to be thinking about optimization while you're 3D modeling. You're going to be like, how many materials am I using? How many material layers am I using? What parts of this model can be baked into one? Is the target place that I'm putting this model, what kind of lighting is it going to use? Is it going to use light map lighting, or is everything going to be baked to the same UV channel? You're going to be thinking all these things while you're creating your 3D model after you get some experience doing all these things afterwards on a 3D model. So there is the 2-hour rant for today. Well, it was like a 3-hour rant for today. I got a little bit obsessed trying to get all these objects in here. It went pretty well. I mean, we're talking about 36 draw calls or so in here. That's really good for hundreds of objects, especially because they're all individual objects. Look at that hierarchy. It's not just one model sitting in there. We're talking about hundreds of things. But thanks for tuning in, and I will finish up this room and get it onto a parcel for us to be amazed or enraged about, depending on how the performance is, because this is all about approaching the performance in different ways. And I'll see you all next week when I get this on a parcel and we can test it out together. Thanks for tuning in, lurking in the channels with me. I'm SithLord. This is the Somnium build stream that happens every week, and I will see you in 1 week. And shout out to the people that were talking to me in the YouTube chat, which I didn't catch up on until right now. Rytoon, is 3DX Max getting good updates? It is, actually. I don't use 2024. I use 2023 still, but it has some really good features. 2024 actually has some features that I would like that 2023 had, because I don't have 2024. So yeah, they are still getting good features. I got a little dog. And I'm a bear because I broke my regular VTuber, that software, Snap Camera, it got discontinued. So I had to find something new. So I'm a bear for the time being. And bears have dogs. I did not eat my dog. My dog is my friend. This bear is a friend of dogs. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Michelle, Toon, everybody else that was lurking. Bots, I see, talking in Twitch. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.